Good morning. This is Rosemary, and I'm your host for the Lightwalker's Path. And this is a place to have enlightening conversations with fascinating guests, like today's guest, Dr. Christian Oranjo, a transformational specialist, awarded the 2025 Spiritual Wellness Leader. And his specialty is helping women 40 plus harness fifth dimension life shifting. And I'm very excited to speak to you today. How are you?
I'm very well, Rosamund. Very excited to be here on the show with you. And yeah, excited that I have this opportunity to serve your audience.
I'm so happy to speak to you today. So the first I wanted to start with is that some people that are new to this realm may not understand the overall life shifting that we've all been experiencing as healers and helpers to other people. And one of the things that I know that you and I understand is the dimensional shift that's been happening. So I want you to explain in your own words how you would tell the audience what a fifth dimension shift is and how they can find it or get there when they may not have this understanding right now.
Yeah, great question to start off with. Sets the tone. The As I see it, the fifth dimension and moving into what I call the fifth dimensional way of living slash working is not a place to go to. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just something that, no, it is refers to something within us. It's
Mm-hmm.
happening. That's where it happens,
Yes.
this transition. Now, the other thing that I've come to understand is that it is not possible, and if it is, I don't consider it wise to jump straight from the 3D reality we've been living in for centuries straight into 5D. The reason is that living in 3D, we have been building up what I call conditioning. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, I prefer to call it the negative patterns of behavior in the way we think,
Yes.
limiting beliefs, we feel, negative emotions, and how
Mm-hmm.
we act, including the poor choices and decisions we are making. Now,
Mm-hmm.
imagine it's like climbing a mountain. The higher you go, the more you need to let go. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
gather all that you've gathered at base camp. You cannot take that all with you to the top. It won't work. The reason why it won't work is imagine that in the 3D reality, building up in this life, and if you believe in it, in lifetimes, we've built up this what is called this conditioning, which is greatly, as we can see, greatly disturbing the quality of life and how we work here in this 3D reality. Imagine that we would take that untouched with us into 5D.
Mm-hmm.
That it would continue doing its interfering, negative interfering, and disrupting
Yes.
things that we are already doing here. And that's the reason why I mentioned that. So, but basically, what I'm saying is, and that is, I think, valuable to know and actually important to know that in order to move to that internal state of the fifth dimensional way of working, we first need to move through the fourth dimension. And that is
Yes.
kind of secret.
That's the
And
releasing. That's the
that's
releasing, right?
challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love. I looked at some of your information about avoidance and how when people avoid what they have to face, it really puts them back and keeps them bound in the old paradigm of thinking. So I love the idea of shifting through changing your mindset, through kind of looking at your soul as the I guess the guide and the journey to what you're supposed to do next, even if it makes no sense to anyone else. And I've lived like this and I understand. It's like you can't explain it to someone that doesn't understand this. Like internally, if they're still living in that fear-based avoidance kind of thinking, it's very difficult for them to understand that a shift is even possible. So my question is, when you're dealing with someone who is very avoidant, who has not been ready to harness this light, what would be the first step that you would tell them that they can take to kind of begin to this doing this internal shift?
Let me say first that, and that is due to the working of the fourth dimension, that we are built, created with a conscious and subconscious and an unconscious mind. And the characteristic of the sub and unconscious is that we've stored things in there of which we are not yet or not anymore conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if that's the case, being aware that the conditioning I spoke about earlier is situated in our sub and unconscious,
Mm-hmm.
how is it possible to work with something that we are unaware of?
That's right. I guess it starts with awareness, right?
I mean, there are exceptions. It is possible to change something without us being aware of it. It's possible, but in generally speaking, it's only possible when we become aware of it. But then the question comes, how can we become conscious of something we are not yet or not anymore conscious of? And here comes the fourth dimension into play, because in the fourth dimension, there's a certain, I would say, mechanism, a certain kind of ingredient or whatever you call it, built into creation to make that happen. And that
Mm-hmm.
is as related to an expression in Sufism. It
Mm-hmm.
says, all in this material world is done with mirrors. And
Yes.
the function of a mirror is that when we
Reflecting.
are, it points at, it's like a road sign, it points at exactly that which we need to understand or remember in order to
Mm-hmm.
work with it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how another word for mirror is catalyst.
Yes.
How do catalysts in our life show up? It
Yes.
happens in situations and circumstances we find in
Mm-hmm.
ourselves in, the unpleasant one. We find it in certain meetings with a particular kind of person or group of people. We find it is in how it expresses itself in our physical condition, burnout,
Yes. Love
makes
that.
us
Yeah.
stop and look at what is happening. And it can come up with, like I said, a burnout, and that's more like it shows up as an internal condition, emotional, mental condition. Now, what I noticed, to my surprise, is that recently the kind of clients that reach me and ask for assistance and the issues they bring to the table are rapidly intensifying.
Yeah.
And so we
Yes.
could
I've
say,
noticed the same.
right? We
Yeah.
could say, oh, that is caused by the political
Mm-mm.
situation, the threat of war, and the
No.
economic, how economically it all. But what I see is that it actually caused greatly by the working of the fourth dimensional plane we are now moving through, which
Love that.
makes the situations, the people, the physical conditions, and our internal world, we see that mirrored. And it is these outer situations that point at what we now need to face and look at, and
Yes.
in order to release and heal it, that makes life so intense. With which,
I love that. I found the same thing. I found this with my clients as well, Dr. Aranji. There's the huge shift and a huge karmic clearing that came in 2025, and now
yes,
it's like everyone's beginning to harness this, new fire horse energy. But it's really shedding all this old beliefs and things, and people are facing all kinds of crazy changes. But that's actually
yes,
the catalyst. That is the catalyst for change. Is when you're facing something that's difficult, it forces you out of what you already know and into the new. So,
yeah, and I think one important thing to add is because of things are intensifying and because of what now is asked of us to face, we are dealing with something that is quite complex as a dynamic.
hmm
It is very delicate and it requires a very specific and precise approach, with which I mean to say that it takes care, it takes a bit of time,
hmm
and will not always be an easy ride. So
yes,
to give them a kind of a quick tip, I can, but to really touch on the core issue, to make
hmm
changes, therefore, that are durable,
hmm
sustainable, and long term, that is for that to happen, a deeper transformational process is needed.
Do you do hypnosis work with your clients? Because I know that that's one way to get under the radar to the subconscious for some people. Is that part of your process or not?
No, Um, although using my voice has an hypnotic effect, I know. Mhm. The thing is that since the world has changed, since we have changed,
Mm-hmm.
the traditional methods and the familiar routines we are doing are not anymore giving us the results as it used to. And because of what we are going through in this fourth dimensional kind of realm, therefore, what is needed is that we have more updated and refined approaches and also come up with new ones. And that's where I come in because I've developed a new sound healing technology,
Okay.
which is specifically designed to help the clients I work with to become conscious of what they are not yet conscious of. And here comes another element into it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what I've noticed in myself, first and foremost, is that all the work that I've done on my subconscious and my mindset and all the doing the right things that I know that can be done, the affirmations, the vision quest, the meditations, the yoga, and all these kind of things, and reprogramming my beliefs and releasing it's not working anymore that well. For some it does, that's fine. But when it doesn't work, then it is an indication that that particular person, maybe you here viewing and listening, that's the time, that's where life indicates that you need to go into the unconscious realm.
Oh,
And
yes.
here's
Yes.
the thing, our mind works, the language of our mind and the subconscious in a way is words. The
Mm-hmm.
language of the heart and the unconscious is sound.
Yes, I love that. One of my good friends is a sound healer, and we would, pair up every month. And I'm a Reiki master teacher. We would do sound and Reiki together, and it was really interesting how the synergy of these energies really does shift the body. But I know that sound and the frequency of our body and our heart is so powerful. So that's very interesting. So when you deal with a client, are you doing like sound bowls? Is it a sound frequency that you found healing to your clients? Is it some other modality with sound that you have developed? Like, so explain
Yes,
this thing that you have developed because I'm interested in learning more about that.
I'm a professional trained actor and musician,
Oh,
and I'm using the keyboard. I'm using the notes on the keyboard
okay.
and the way it works is that I reverse space.
Okay.
I consider the person I'm working with or the group that I'm working with, I consider them to be the player and I
Love
myself the
that.
listener.
I
And
love
then
that.
in my
Yeah.
training that I've gone through, I open myself for the energy of the particular person I work with or the group, or also including the energy that is in the room that surrounds them, and then allow that energy to come through. And then again, through the training that I've been going through, I put myself aside. So no agenda,
Right.
no things to think from, oh, this might be good or something. No, to be
You're
the
channeling it.
as clear
Yeah.
as channel as I can, and then
Yeah.
allow the energy to go through my arms and into my hands, and
I
allow my
love
fingers
that.
to play the notes that wants to be played. And
Oh, I
if
love
you
that.
so choose to look at it that way, then the sounds that appear are then the
Great.
mirror, the catalyst in
I
which the
love
person
that.
working for the group can see certain things that are not yet or not anymore aware of.
I love that. I'm an angel channel. So I've been channeling angel communication since 1993. So I understand that
Wonderful,
process, and I also
wonderful,
play
wonderful,
piano, So
wonderful, wonderful.
I understand your whole thing, and that's super cool. And I do like for people that have not experienced like what you and I know about bringing in, you have to be completely open and get out of your own way, and there's no ego. It's just like you're an open vessel for this energy from the universe to come in and bring it to you. So I think that's really cool that you do that. Do you do that just in person, or do you also work virtually with your clients?
I only work virtually with my clients.
Okay. Okay,
So
cool.
that means that I can serve everyone
I love that.
wherever they are in the world. But what you
Yes.
mentioned, there's a kind of an important thing to notice to note here, and that touches also on what you asked me earlier. What do I do when I start to work with a client?
Hmm.
There are two things: the accessing and working with the unconscious is not wise to do it by yourself alone, and there are reasons for it.
Okay.
So the first thing that I do in order to do this particular work and to access to your unconscious is to make sure that first and foremost we create, or the client in themselves create, and I can offer them the tools to do that, a safe, the proper conditions
Mhm.
and circumstances in order to do this work in a safe and secure, and if they so wish, sacred way. That is the number one priority
I
that I
agree. I agree. And I think that people that are not in that spiritual realm, like pray for my client before I channel, and I make sure I know what I'm bringing in because I'm not just opening doors and windows and say whoever wants to talk to me. I really set the intention for my client. So that's super important that you are also doing that for your clients because I know that you're working for highest good when you do that. And I think some
absolutely.
people out there are not doing that. So that's super,
No,
that's very,
unfortunately,
very beautiful that you
that's
bring
right.
the intention. Go ahead, continue.
And the second element that I then bring in
Mm-hmm.
is to re-establish a more direct conscious connection with their essence, their true self, their soul. Now, when I mention the element of soul, that is more layered, multi-layered, and there are more facets to it. But just for the sake of
Mm-hmm.
conversation, let me say that that is soul we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I always add, in doing this, the note of caution that it is not wise and they really need to shy away from getting into a conversation with the direct conversation with their soul. For instance, it could go in the direction that they are about to buy a new house and they consult with their soul. Is it a good thing to do the buy? What do you think, soul? Is it a good thing to sign? No. It is
Right.
very important to stay with a sensory perception of how it feels to be in that more direct
Yes,
connection, not go into engage in a conversation, not ask for
I agree.
initiate a conversation or
Free
whatever,
will.
because you need to make sure you need to have a certain training in
Yes,
order to make sure that what comes through is your soul and not another part that has
that's right.
not that good intentions.
That's right. And the other
Right?
thing too is you can't interfere with someone's free will. So if someone is supposed to make that mistake to learn from it, you don't want to be in the mix as the healer telling them what to do. Same with my angel readings. It's like if someone says, "Should I leave my husband?" No, I could only read your energy and how you feel right now, what the angels are telling you. But it's not going to tell you a yes or a no because that's your free will. And one of the things is like you never interfere with free will, and I don't future read because the future is not set in stone. It's based on your free will and your
Yes,
intention and all
exactly,
those things that you
exactly,
have to learn from. And I
exactly.
really love the way that you work. And I know that when you started your work, I mentioned I was looking at one of your videos and you had also gone through like a night of your own dark soul to get to where you are
Absolutely,
now. So, do
absolutely.
you care to mention any part of what you learned from that to bring you to where you are now or not? I'll just leave that out for you in case you want to mention anything, and it's up to you completely.
It has made me who I am today. It
Mm-hmm.
has, in retrospect, been an extremely tough journey.
Mm,
And at the same time, now again, in retrospect, looking at it, it has been so rich and so rewarding. Now, to give you a bit of a context of what we're talking about here, I had a troublesome birth. There were a few what I could call traumatic events happening shortly after one another. I
yes.
counted them. It were 12 in total. And as the Jesuit saying says, give me a boy or girl age 7, and I show you the man, woman, which I mean to say, and that is scientifically proven, that the first 7 years we absorb, we form
Yeah.
our conditioning, and that
Yes.
makes us who we are and who we
Yes.
become later on. So these 12 traumatic events resulted, for instance, in suffering from a particular type of depression for 49 years. It
Oh.
happened overnight. There was a particular
Mm,
moment, so a particular event that happened
mm,
where I was still living from my light, in that light, being that light. And the day after, the light dimmed, disappeared, and
Mhm.
it stayed dark for 49 years.
Oh, that breaks my heart for you. I know it's part of your journey, but it's like I was a teacher, so I have a very soft spot for children and for people's
Mhm.
traumas. Oh,
Mhm.
yes.
So when we talk about the dark night of the soul, I have been living in the dark night of the soul for 49 years. And with
Mhm.
that comes the wrestling with reducing the self-sabotaging and self-harming
Mhm.
tendencies that comes with it to the very minimum. Tell me any kind of major addiction there is, and I've gone through it. Breakups of love relationships, businesses that went sour. But when you look overall, the arc of my life, you can see it best as how a whale travels. I have had my moments where I came
Mhm.
above service and I did my thing, and I've been successful in it to the point that at some point I lived in New York, as I mentioned earlier before we started the recording. And I had my theater production company, and the solo shows that I produced there, the last one had a weekly run for 6 months in an off-Broadway theater. And I
Oh,
had enough money in the bank. I could do whatever I wanted. But between the scenes, backstage, I had to go to 4 therapy sessions each week
oh,
with different therapists to cope with my sense of emptiness, feeling unfulfilled and utterly
oh,
unhappy, to cope with, to keep myself alive.
yes. Oh,
Now,
goodness.
what did all this bring me?
Mm.
It's like the oyster. At some point, life blows a worthless grain of sand in its belly. 12 traumatic events? Why me? What the heck? What's the point of it all?
Hmm.
But eventually, dealing with it in the right way and following the process, trusting the process as life showed me, as others who crossed my path, teachers, therapists,
Mm.
other coaches, who pointed me the way to deal with it and gave me the tools to deal with it in the appropriate and way. Eventually, a, a pile of beautiful, precious pearls came out of it. And I
Beautiful.
think that that is the
Beautiful.
kind of what summarizes, in
Yeah.
short, this metaphor, what the dark night of the soul is actually meant for.
Yeah.
To use another metaphor, it is known that diamonds are formed with deep
Hmm.
within
Pressure.
the ground, in the dark, with lots of heat
A lot
and
of
a lot of
pressure.
pressure. And
Yeah.
that's also kind of another metaphor that you can use for the dark night of the soul, and where it leads you to when you deal with it in the correct manner.
And that's why you're such a helpful, compassionate soul. Being through something yourself, you're able to transform that energy and share it, which
Mhm.
is so beautiful. I know you said you had a something you wanted to do with the listeners. So I'm going to give you some time now if you want to expand and do this section where you want to shift our listeners. So I would appreciate, if you want to do that, that this would be a perfect time for it.
Um, hmm.
Because you just
I'm not,
mentioned something you wanted to do.
yeah, there is at the end of the interview, I have something that I would like to offer as a takeaway, and there's a small gift attached to it, and that is
Okay.
about 7 minutes. So that's the one
Okay.
part. And there's also another part, but that is more like an. I don't think that's not very appropriate in the settings here.
No,
I mean,
no.
I'm very happy with continuing the lovely conversation that we had.
Absolutely. Okay.
There's one thing that comes to mind which has not yet been mentioned, which I find important.
Okay.
And that is the question, why is it that nowadays, what we are encountering, it is important that we now make that move into addressing what we are holding in our unconscious? And why is
Okay.
life now putting us the mirror in front of us that points in that direction? It is because of this. In the unconscious, what is stored in there are what I call the root causes, which
Uh-huh.
work as core drivers.
Mm-hmm.
The core drivers
Mm-hmm.
are is that fuels and sparks and activates the habits that we hold in our subconscious that
Yeah.
makes us do or say the things we actually don't want to say or do consciously, but say
Right.
it anyway, because our subconscious habits are overruling our conscious decisions,
I always
and that
call it the
all
tail wagging the dog. The tail
Exactly,
wagging the dog. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So when we are working on our subconscious and we leave the root cause that sparks and fuels it into place untouched, then every time, yes, we can have an experience of, oh, wow, it feels better. And it can even come as a point that, oh, it's done and over and dealt with. I'm done. But then
I'm fixed.
it falls away, it fades away.
Then
And
it comes back.
eventually, yes, we find ourselves at square one again. And we wonder
Mhm.
why. Well, it is because the root cause is not touched yet.
I agree. I
But
agree.
then the second thing comes in. Uh, Please make sure that in accessing the unconscious, you find someone who can be of assistance, someone who knows how to do it properly, because when we dive into the unconscious, we touch on our ego structure. And when we touch on the ego structure, if it's not professionally guided, then we might fall in, and probably will when we do it alone, into what they call a place of disorientation, feeling disoriented, and so on and so forth. And it could lead to
A breakdown.
unpleasant situations. So
Yes. Yes.
therefore, that's why I first and foremost I work with clients on reestablishing a more direct conscious connection with the higher self, because their higher
Absolutely.
self, in the turmoil they might go through and probably go through in going through the unconscious layers, the soul, their higher self, is like a lighthouse on the shore. They are in the boat, swiped left and right,
Yes.
the weather, blah, 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 but they know that that's
Yes.
where they are going, and
That's
that's
it.
the,
So I find a lot of the people that are either with addiction or problems, it's almost like a soul hole. It's like they don't have the connection of light to fill them, so they fill it with
exactly,
something
exactly,
else. Whether it
exactly,
be over shopping or eating or something. There's
exactly,
some hole in the soul that needs healing.
exactly,
So I always
exactly.
say, that's why I pray for my clients before I even work with them.
Yes. And
So
there's another thing that I can also add to that, and that is why we touched on it earlier, but it's also, I think, helpful to answer, why did I say that working on mindset is also not giving any more the result as it used to?
yeah,
And that has to do with what I've also recently come to understand, pondering upon why is that actually that I noticed in myself that it doesn't work. I noticed that the brain slash the mind, our
mhm.
human mind, is actually not the thing to work on, because it's merely a vehicle.
That's right. It's a
When you
processor.
look at a car, it's parked
Yeah,
outside and
yeah,
it does not anything by its own. What matters is to make sure that you choose and allow the right kind of driver sit behind the steering wheel. Now, the question might pop up, oh, okay, well, when that's the case, what is then the driver to choose from? I consider ourselves being consistent out of our lower self, which is also
hmm
sometimes called our animal self. We all get
Lower
this,
chakras.
right? Our middle self, the one, Rosemary, I'm now talking to, listeners, viewers, the one I'm now talking to, it's your human self, your middle self,
Mhm.
and there's this higher self, which we
The
call
higher
our
self.
angelic self, which is our soul. Now, you can
Hmm
already immediately imagine when you put your lower self with all its impulses and reactions and all these kind of things behind the
Pulls you
steering
down.
wheel, it will be quite a different ride than when you consciously choose your soul to sit behind the steering wheel.
Love that. I love, and I so understand that because that's why the heart link with the heart and the higher self and the akasha with your soul. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Yeah. So you wanted to mention a way that you had something for our listeners. So would you
Yes.
describe that, please?
Yes,
How would
please.
they find you?
Yes, and there's also a way to get in touch with me. And it is kind of a takeaway that I would like to leave you
Okay.
with.
Certainly.
Whenever you want to change something
Hmm
or you're confronted with a difficult situation, what most likely happens is that it has a negative impact on how you feel and think. It makes
hmm
you slide into what is called a lower vibrational, also known as a
hmm
non-resourceful state. For instance, being in fear of in this fight, flight, or
Yeah.
freeze state is an example of it. And this is the last thing you want to see happening, because in those kind of situations, What you actually need is to have the energy, the vitality that gives you the clarity of mind, the strength, determination, and to deal with it. What you need is something that helps you do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
Something that helps you shift from a non-resourceful, lowest vibrational state into what I call a state of excellence
Mm-hmm.
as quickly as possible. And to maintain it while the situation you're in is still challenging and perhaps unbearable. This, by the way, is to me what resilience is about. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for anyone listening who feels that this is something you could use, I'd love you to offer this as a small gift. It's a short downloadable ebook called The 5 Steps to Transform Any Negative Feeling or Thought Anytime, Anywhere, in 7 minutes or less.
Love that.
I created it because when I look at my own life, I carried negative emotions and thoughts with me way longer than I had to, simply
Mm-hmm.
because no one ever showed me that all this can be transformed much quicker and even when needed, instantly in a moment. The advantage of this 5 steps ritual is that it prevents you from suppressing of what you don't like to feel and think, and instead to turn those negative feelings and thoughts into those that energize, empower, and uplift you. Now, you will find the link in the show notes. It's a simple download and you receive it by email. In
Okay.
addition,
How
for
do
those,
tell us how
yeah,
they find it. Tell me how, because when I describe the podcast, I want to put a link in there. So is it thesoulmatters.com? How do we find this link?
the link is usually put into the show notes. If you want the exact link, where do I get it? It's not.
Or you could email me and I'll add it.
I
in.
I sent you the link, and you
Okay.
can include it in the show notes.
Yes, I will. I'll put it in the
Okay.
description when I post because I've got to describe this show when I post.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that
Yes.
they have access. So
Yes.
that's perfect. Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
And in addition,
Hmm.
for those of you here listening and viewers who have it all, yet still feel unfulfilled and sense the desire to take that deeper step, for you, I'm offering a complimentary From Pointless to Purpose treasure map consultation. It's a 1 hour conversation where you can experience how I work, ask your questions directly, and explore whether I'm the right person to assist you in making the changes you want or need to make. Now, just to be clear, this is a no pressure consultation. There are no obligations. It is simply an invitation to explore.
That's a beautiful giveaway. I hope people do take you up on it, and that just is wonderful. So you've been a fascinating guest, and I really appreciate your time today. So please look for the Lightwalker's Path, and once you're posting, feel free to share the video. And I do hope people will look you up and
Indeed.
explore the fascinating work that you do as well. So thank you
Yes.
so much for your time today.
You too. An honor. And I've been enjoying this interview very much. Yes. And I do hope and I trust actually that it will contribute to the listeners, viewers,
It will be.
highest well being, wholeness, and wellness.
It will be. Thank you.